We'll be starting soon. One last announcement for those participating with the Ruth and Klein Awards. Please make your way forward. That's usually all the women clergy that do this.
Ruth and Klein Award participants, come to the front.
AKA women clergy.
So I don't know. Oh. It's this, right?
On deck, we'll have Valera and Tam Davis with the consent calendar. So just be ready, but we'll have the Ruth and Klein Awards first.
So who's going to introduce the Ruth Award? Ruth and Klein Award.
I'm ready.
Welcome, Joyce.
Thank you. I'm happy to announce that our 2017 Ruth Award goes to a woman who did not come to the Methodist Church until the age of 28. She moved from her native Japan to Washington, D.C. to work for the World Bank and found her way to the Foundry United Methodist Church in D.C. She was introduced to the mission of the Methodist Church through the vitality of United Methodist women and was impressed with the women's strong sense of faith lived out in mission. The introduction to the United Methodist Church through the Foundry UMW launched a small dynamo into the life of witness and service. There is no project too big or too small for her attention, and we are blessed to know her, to be inspired by her, to try to keep up with her. Big things do come in small packages, and we honor Noriko Lau as this year's Ruth Award recipient. I have a few more, before we sing, I have a microphone. Noriko has served not only in leadership in the conference UMW, she served as a lay leader of the Puget Sound District. She has served on our general and jurisdictional conference team, and in 2011, she had been visiting her mother in Tokyo the day before the earthquake and tsunami hit, and returned soon as the consultant through UMCOR and the Japanese Christians to aid in relief efforts. Her passion is infectious as she stands for the rights of all women and men, for immigrants, for children and youth, for women young and old, and the full inclusion within the United Methodist Church of members of the LGBTQ community. She is indeed a bundle of energy if she's raising money for malaria relief in a bug-off 5K run in Pasco, or working behind the scenes at Mission U, or connecting people who are different but building community through conversation and deep listening. She has been honored by the Whatcom County Northwest Y as a woman in their Hall of Fame, and she is also in her spare time the disaster action team coordinator for Mount Baker chapter of the American Red Cross. Noriko not only acts globally, she believes in acting locally. Not only does she scale huge projects, she understands the power of small things. I checked on her Facebook, and she is encouraging those to save used staples to recycle. It is a privilege to work with her, to be inspired by her, to be exhausted by her. And as she says, God is the creator of all people. We are all God's children, and we must carry on our legacy of faith, love, and action. It is not just her words, it is her life. And I thank you for not just what you do, but Noriko, for who you are.
Now you can see. I'm without words. You know, short legs can move faster. And Small body needs less sleep to recuperate. Thank you.
This is for you.
Making us strong, letting our wisdom to help us along, sharing our vision, sharing our dream, touching our hearts like a deep flowing stream.
Thank you so much. God bless. Thank you for that.
In Noriko's honor, it is my pleasure to announce that the Ruth Award Scholarship this year is going to Bailey Bronner. She's a member of St. John's in Anchorage, pursuing ordination in the Pacific Northwest Conference, a student at Boston University School of Theology. In her words, "Without the strength and courage of the women who have come before me, paving the way, I would not have the strength and courage for being a woman in ministry. This means there is a balance of privilege and responsibility in my journey. Going forward, I'm blessed with the honor of fighting for those who will come after me, ensuring that they can serve in ways that continue to define the strength that comes from women in ministry." Bailey, are you here? Okay, we'll send it to her. And the funding for this scholarship this year comes from the Spriggs Scholarship Fund at Olympia First. Now, Marion Klein. Before and after her ordination in the first class of women full member elders in the Methodist Church, Marion Klein went to join God's mission with the people she served. The Marion Klein Award honors a woman who has done likewise. Appointed to a rural community where nuclear missile parts were being shipped through town by train, she joined a local and national community of peacemakers and sat on the tracks. Even her jail roommate was supportive and helpful. Living in Nicaragua, Guatemala, and Honduras for 10 years as an immigrant, also known as a missionary, she was never told to go home, to speak better Spanish, quiche, mosquito, or mom, and never called names. Earning her Doctor of Ministry degree, she was blessed to accompany 9 women reflecting on God's call to build a new Honduras after Hurricane Mitch. They presented their work together at a theological conference. With the husband she describes as a great photographer, theologian, and pretty good heckler, she has raised an international family, their now adult son and daughter, and a 7-year-old granddaughter. Now, she brings what Central Americans taught her about hospitality here to help us support and welcome immigrants, accompany Hispanic and Latino churches, and foster new leadership. We are grateful that Lyda Pierce is now accompanying us, helping us join God's mission with the peoples of the greater Northwest. May she do so like Marion, as long as ever she can. Lyda?
I've been privileged to be accompanied by many. I accompany because I'm accompanied, and I give thanks for all the wonderful people I get to work with. Can I ask to have all the Hispanic pastors and leaders stand up and wave? Los que son los pastores hispanos, latinos, que se levanten, se ponen de pie. Levanten su mano, algunos están enfrente aquí. And all of you who work with Hispanics and Latinos, if you'd stand up. And everybody who's an immigrant, stand up. And everybody who works with immigrants, stand up. I don't do anything alone, and I'm so thankful and so blessed to work with all of you. Thank you.
Nancy Tam Davis and David Valera will bring consent calendar and legislation for us.
Yesterday, we deferred action on a consent calendar, and I would like to revisit that again today.
We have one item that's been requested.
You want this? I don't know.
The secretary should present that, because she's over received that.
Shirley, you're the one that received this, so if you would present it.
Just,
You have.
somebody needs to remove it from the consent.
So for consent calendar item number 15, reducing the number of districts from 6 to 5 in 2018, the duly required signatures to remove that from the consent calendar is here. So I move that.
So you're all aware of that? Yes. Okay. So
Do we want to proceed with the consent calendar and then go to?
you tell us.
Oh,
What are you going to put before us?
She put the vote for the, to pull the So we just
That's what she just announced.
yeah, that's what she just announced it.
So what are you going to do?
I don't think the body heard it.
All right, did you hear, so Shirley, would you say again, and make sure and speak into the microphone, what's been pulled from the consent calendar?
On page C11 in your pre-conference handbook, the petition to reduce the number of districts from 6 to 5 in 2018.
So now we go and present the whole consent calendar with that.
It is listed as
Thank you.
petition number 15, again on page C11.
So this one is removed from the consent.
All right, so if you're on page C15, this is report number 1N, related to petition 15, and that's being pulled off of the consent calendar. So the consent calendar is still before us without that item, and that will come before us later for action. So,
okay. To the consent calendar then. And would you like me to read those items again? Okay, good. So I move acceptance and adoption of the consent calendar.
and just to be clear, we got two consent calendars floating around, right? So this is the consent calendar on page C13.
13.
And 14, C13 and 14. And 15. Oh, and, no. 13 through 15. This is before you. If you would approve the consent calendar, please lift your hand. If you're opposed, same sign. Abstentions? The consent calendar is approved, minus the one petition that will come back to us.
All right. Now, there are two items that we left for Friday morning. The first one is, it's on a separate handout. It is petition L1, affirming Western Jurisdiction Council of Bishops' response to Judicial Council and Western Jurisdiction's commitment to inclusive ministry. And I should read these both. And petition L3, affirming LGBTQI clergy. I present these to you.
All right, these are on the consent calendar. You see the votes that were taken by the focus group. So if you would approve these two items on the consent calendar, please lift your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? It is adopted.
Okay, we're done then.
All right.
We go some act later. We're now going to have
All
a
right.
before we get off.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bishop.
We'll bring you back for.
We'll come back later for the individual.
Right. We'll be taking the debatable legislative items later in our agenda. So we turn now to David Wright and someone whose last name I have, but not for Ann Mayer, thank you, for the Peace with Justice Award. And who should be coming up? Oh, and then, so Valera and Davis do not go very far away. Okay.
Also, the Martin Luther King Award, too, MLK Award. I'm not sure who's presenting that, but that's the same time.
Also, the Martin Luther King Award, if you could be, whoever's presenting that one, be up in the front as well.
That's us.
Welcome. Oh, good. Welcome.
Thank you, Bishop. It's bright up here. Good afternoon, almost, friends. My name's Dave Wright, and I am recently, amongst other things, our Peace with Justice Coordinator.
And I'm Ann Mayer. I am the chair of the Board of Church and Society.
One of the longstanding traditions of the board and the coordinator's role has been to recognize, in large part thanks to the generosity of our congregations through the Peace with Justice Sunday offerings, individuals, churches, communities, agencies around our conference that are doing the work of engaging equity, justice, and inclusion for all God's people. This morning we have the honor to invite forward, and we know that not all could be here, and we know the timing was fluid, so if you are able to come forward, please. If not, we will get these to you at a later time. Either the individuals or the pastors or the lay leaders or representatives or members, someone from each of these churches or agencies for these awards. And we will not read the full description, but there are wonderful things happening that we are, as a board, thrilled to be supporting.
Yes.
So first, we would like to invite someone from Seattle First United Methodist Church to come forward to receive a Peace with Justice Award for ongoing exceptional food justice ministries. And we'll read all through these all at once, and then you can applaud at that point.
And the Boundary County Victim Services for the SART training to improve care of survivors of assault. And that is in relationship with Bonner's Ferry UMC, I believe.
Yes. Then we have White Swan United Methodist Church, which is working to develop a workshop studying the doctrine of discovery, hopefully for presentation to area churches and communities in the near future.
Oops. And Ellensburg First United Methodist Church, in support of providing legal support and services to immigrants living in our communities.
And finally, Goldendale United Methodist Church, in support of their ongoing community food justice ministries. Will you join me and join us in welcoming and appreciating these leaders? Thank you all. Congratulations. We've asked our friends from First United Methodist in Seattle to please stay here for a moment because the recipient of this year's MLK Award, which is often given to an individual, as I understand it, and it's a gift in their honor to a agency or nonprofit or service community of their choice, so we don't know where it's going yet exactly, but I have some guesses. That award this year is being given to someone who could not be with us in person for this. I believe I got a message that she's currently engaged in some kind of work to make the world a better place. It's amazing how that happens. So thank you to her colleagues and friends and pastor from First for being here. I believe we have a short video to introduce this award.
She makes the same walk every Tuesday.
Oh, I'm making the shopping list for the coming week's shopping trip.
Because when you were throwing a party for important guests.
So we have enough granola for a couple of months.
You make sure you have enough of everything.
Country sausage gravy, we put this on our biscuits.
So she carefully goes through her checklist.
Looks like we might be gonna need some white sugar this time.
Jean Ferguson's visitors, you see, have come to expect only the very best.
We certainly get a lot of thanks every Sunday from the guests.
Saturdays are shopping days. Jean takes her list into cash and carry.
It looks like the farmland sausages are on sale.
3 cases of biscuits.
Now we're going into the refrigerator department.
6 boxes of milk.
Are they up here?
A case of bowls.
These are on sale.
And so on. $486 later.
Thanks again.
She's finished. They load it up, and off she goes. Sunday morning, Jean and her friends tend to the final preparations for their feast. There is a prayer that their efforts might live up to their guests' expectations.
Father, I pray that each person that comes into this room today to be fed would not only be fed in their stomach, but fed in their soul.
And outside the First United Methodist Church, from shelters and dirty streets and tents and alleyways, Jean's special guests arrive. Troubled, all of them. Tormented, hungry.
Come follow me, please.
Yes, sir. I come here every Sunday.
One guest starts playing the piano. They fill their bellies. Eggs, sausage, gravy. Stuff that'll stick for a while.
Very different than the way that we normally get to eat on the streets.
And they tell their stories.
I was in prison camp 13 months.
Here, every Sunday, 300 or 400 men and women, at the lowest point in their lives, remember what it feels like to be human beings. And all the while, Jean hums and smiles. She oversees it all, the way she has every Sunday morning for 17 years.
And that just strikes me every Sunday morning that you know, we're all in it together.
This humble and decent and compassionate little lady has found her place in this world.
It's just a part of all of our lives.
Her place is here.
You gonna keep doing this?
Oh, yeah.
Forever?
Well, probably. Yeah, I'm going to keep doing it as long as I can.
Jean, you're my hero, sweetie.
Well, thank you so much.
You're my hero.
So as you can tell, we are awarding Jean Ferguson for her continual and selfless commitment to food justice, the 2017 Martin Luther King Jr. Award.
Bishop, thank you for the time and the chance to honor these important and vital parts of our conference. It's an amazing set of ministries and community outreaches that we offer. Thank you.
Thanks for telling us some great stories and introducing us to some terrific disciples. All right, we have one more piece of legislative action to take, and Nancy Tam Davis and David Valera are going to come back and present it to us.
Project transformation. Focus on debt.
And if the project transformation people could come and be ready to be next.
Okay, presenting two individual actions. The first one is report number 1N, petition number 15. And that's to reduce the number of districts from 6 to 5 in 2018.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask you, is there a page number on that?
11.
All right. I'm here, that's C11, is that right? The two conferences handle these things so very differently. I'm kind of whiplashed a little bit. Thank you. All right, so you want to put this before us?
Yes. So moved.
So it's been moved that we adopt petition 15. This was taken off the consent calendar so that we could discuss it, and it's before you now. Yes, white card, microphone 2.
Elizabeth Schindler, clergy, Issaquah Faith. I understand by rule that the legislation can't have more information than reducing the number of districts because the boundaries of the districts should be set by the bishop. But I'm wondering if there has been further discussion about the strategy around that reduction and if that information can be shared with the group.
I can share this. There are people who have thought about this, and the general assumption is that the number of districts on the west side of the Cascade Crest would be reduced by 1. But the specifics of that haven't been determined and would be done in collaboration. I mean, there would be conversation. So, is that helpful? Over here, microphone 3.
Bishop, members of conference, Dave Wright, clergy, University of Puget Sound. A question, looking at the way this is worded to us, it references some financial savings in terms of the conference budget. Is the conference able to share what the savings from reducing the number of districts would be and how that would be used in the conference's life?
The only person that would be able to do that is the person who doesn't have it clearly enough in mind to do a very good job. This is a work in progress, and it is not my intention, nor has it been in the intention in the cabinet conversations that have led to this piece of legislation, that we would overall be reducing staff in the life of the conference. What I've discovered in the first months that I've been here is that there are some specific tasks that special tasks that superintendents do that are they're specialized. They require special gifts and skills and training that all superintendents don't necessarily have. They become extremely time-consuming for the superintendents, and so it may be overall that superintendents could be aided in their work if we was staffed for some of those specialties. So, for example, and I'm not just bringing stuff from Mountain Sky, but we did experiment in my previous assignment with a position called a transitional ministry developer that worked with churches worshiping 50 and under that are strained in a variety of ways. They aren't all strained in a variety of ways, but that are needing to make a significant adaptive change in the way they do ministry or are staffed. And that's important. We don't want to lose all of those. We're losing some of them, and we'll continue to lose some of them, but we don't want to lose all of those. And the ones that we are in a situation that need to close, we want to do that carefully. So If there were a staff position that could come alongside those churches, look at the options for how to make ministry thrive in a place of limited population. I mean, this conference has been working on this for 40 years in my lifetime. That we could better address those issues, which are not usually the top priority on a district superintendent's time, just because there are other pressing issues that arise. So that kind of thing. We don't have a plan for it yet, but our thought is to shift staffing in a way that would. It's kind of part of that whole question of how do we do our work best? Where are the gaps? And can we acknowledge that the responsibility level for local churches by district superintendents has decreased with the decreasing size and number of churches, and then shift staffing in directions that would be more strategically helpful to the whole staff team. Is that helpful? That sounded very wordy to me.
I would get, so thank you very much.
All right. Is there another one? Here? Mm-hmm. Microphone 6.
Wes Stanton, clergy, Tracyton, Brownsville. I have two questions. The questions are, one, who submitted the petition, since it isn't printed in the pre-conference handbook, whose source it is? And the second question is, would action one way or the other on this affect the 2018 budget, which we are adopting later in this conference?
Thank you.
The petition was submitted by the cabinet from the cabinet, and the second question referring to the budget, I would like to call Brand, if he could, our treasurer, to make a comment on that, because
I think the bishop's answer to the previous question might be applied to the question Wes just asked about budget. It would not impact it, as we would be redirecting human resources and not financial resources.
Any other questions or discussion? Yes? Microphone 3.
We have Rashenda from Camas United Methodist Church. Our districts are already very large, and our district and superintendents are already work very, very hard. And we have a bit of a plague of overwork in our conference. And so I really liked what you said about how you're looking at restructuring some of the way we go about the work of the district superintendency, understanding that it serves the overall strategy of the church, and we want to staff for that. And I think all of us who serve churches, we understand about staffing for strategic purposes. But I guess I want some reassurance that we're not just going to be loading people up with more work to do. We have to, I feel really strongly, the health of our conference is imperiled when we do that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, if you would adopt petition 15, I'm just going to go straight to the petition number, petition 15 on page C11. Please lift your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Abstentions? It is adopted. Thank you. And for those of you, there were a substantial number of
13 on section C15. You get all those numbers? This is a resolution to restore the practice of sharing the costs of our work together. This is being put forth by the connectional table, and the recommendation is to refer it to CF&A.
Did you find this, that the text of this is on page C9? It gets confusing. You know, it's like an Episcopal prayer book where you have to go back and forth. I like the prayer book. So, petition 13 is before you with a recommendation that it be referred to CF&A for consideration. Is there discussion? If you would adopt petition 13, please say yes. All opposed say no. Any abstentions? It is adopted. Thank you. Does that actually complete? Oh, say that.
We are now complete. Oh, applaud yourselves.
This one?
Never mind.
I take that back.
We celebrated too early.
So this is something only the laity will understand. Ta-da! Thank you. Oh, which one?
The one, the Western jurisdiction, the one that was presented.
Oh, yes. Where is it? There's yours. We're looking for it.
Individual action.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Individual action. Report 1, 6/15. Items for individual action. Petition L2. Petition College of Bishops to convene special Western Jurisdictional Conference. And I have on here, just checking, David, refer to CFNA.
Yes.
Again, refer to CFNA.
All right, do you all know where we are? You received a packet, I believe, of
Single.
3 petitions, late petitions, that were distributed, L1, L2, and L3. Do you have those? Mine are stapled together. I don't know if yours are. I see a page, somebody's looking for, are you asking for a copy of these petitions? Does the page table have copies of these petitions?
It's on the screen too.
It's really hard to read. Can the page table tell us if you have copies of these to share? Not yet. Would those of you at other tables just look and see if by any chance there are additional copies sitting on your table that could be redistributed?
Okay, I got it.
Does anyone else need a copy of this? Are you near someone that you can look on with? There's one over here. Is there a page that can pick this one up and carry it over here?
Yeah, Terry.
There's one coming over
Terry
here.
Toby's coming in with copies right there.
Okay,
Please
there are
raise your hand
copies over
again if you
here.
want copies.
So if those of you that need copies would raise your hands. Is it special hat day for the pages? Every day is special hat day. There are 3 hands up over here. There's 2.
I like the way.
Still have 3 hands up here, 2 in the way back by the doors, 2 in the way back machine.
Careful, Peter.
All right, does anyone else need these? Oh, there's still 2 waivers in the back.
Okay.
Okay, if you still don't have one, you can wave your hand. I'm sure the pages will look for you. I'm going to recognize the red card back here, microphone 4 or 6? 4? Now that you've gotten these, we're on L2.
Okay. Then let me reread this to you. Petition College of Bishops to convene special Western Jurisdictional Conference, and the recommendation is to refer to CFNA.
And I've acknowledged microphone 4.
Sharon Moe, First Church Seattle clergy. And I was a delegate to General Conference and Jurisdictional Conference last year. Those of us who were there experienced as being one of the most divisive general conferences that we've attended. I know I did. And one of the most grace-filled Western jurisdiction conferences that I've attended. In fact, the most, in my experience. And so when I saw this petition, I questioned, when I saw the report of the petition, I questioned why it's being referred to CFNA without consideration on the floor of plenary to really give some thought to it. And I was really surprised to see that by 16 affirmatives, it was referred to CFNA. I've learned in my years in ministry that it's really important to prioritize our expenses in order to set our budgets in terms of the ministry priorities that we have. And when we were at General Conference last year, it was clear that when the Commission on the Way Forward was established, the key thing that we are all anticipating, working for, waiting for, is the report from that commission that is going to happen in 2019, I believe. And that's a report that's going to have a huge influence on the future of the United Methodist Church. Maybe not on the gospel, but certainly on the future of the United Methodist Church. And so we're waiting very excitedly and with great trepidation for that report to come out. And it only makes sense to me that once that report comes out, it will be in our best interest as the Western jurisdiction to meet and to evaluate that report and to strategize about how to respond to that report to fit the interests of the gospel in the church as a whole, but especially of the Western jurisdiction, because we seem to have a kind of different sense than many other jurisdictions have of what we're being called to in our ministry. So I'm speaking very strongly against referring it to CFNA without a substantial content discussion. Why are we giving priority to money rather than the development of the necessary ministry in response to the report of the Way Forward? I think that it's a misplaced priority for us to just refer it to CFNA. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Yes. Microphone 1.
I would speak for referral in that I believe, and I could be wrong.
Can you identify yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. Bruce Smith, Yakima Wesley. That, I'm trying. Okay. I believe that the delegations in the past have had opportunity to go to CFNA for requests of funding in order to meet. I don't know that it takes conference action to authorize the delegation to meet, and perhaps they've already had discussions to do so. I just think it's the usual and appropriate thing to have the delegation ask CFNA for funding to gather and prepare for the general conferencing.
Thank you. Is there further discussion?
Can I say something? Mm-hmm. When the connectional table and CFA were discussing, or when this was presented to them, we had a sizable amount of time spent in really talking about what this means and what was the best move in action. Referring to CFA was one of the things that we were caught between a hard place and a rock, where we said we want to support this, but what do our rules say, and how can we also come up with a strategic response so that if we do need to send folks or delegations to a special called session of the Western jurisdiction, that will really require some financial support. And I want to refer back to the times when this annual conference has actually allocated funds so that we can not only send the delegation themselves, but members themselves, but we extended that to alternates, we extended that to young people. So yes, it does sound, when you listen to it as it is written, it sounds like money was the priority. Actually, I hope you will trust that when CFA deliberates or talks about this, it will become a strategic plan so that maybe they can come back in 2018. If we ask them to come back and say, what's a plan so that in 2019 we can send a delegation? I'm almost like shooting myself with telling you this information. But there was a strategy to that effect and how that is done. So I just want to explain the mood of the connectional table and CFA when we talked about this.
Did I hear you correctly, David, that it would be your anticipation that if referral were adopted, and the reason Nancy's doing this is I wasn't at these meetings, Nancy stepped into that role, that if we referred, your expectation would be that there would be a report back in 2018 to the annual conference?
Yes, Bishop, and then we can take further action. But I think it's just that because of the history of this conference, of how much we really allocate money, and we've been sending people to Western jurisdiction, it would be helpful to really work with CFA and how to find ways to do that.
Thank you. I see a white card. Microphone 1.
Thank you, Bishop. Marie Cook-Stanowski, Trinity Ballard in Seattle. I have a question. This petition is asking the College of Bishops to call a special session. So I'm wondering what the budgetary implications are of asking the College of Bishops to do something.
Does someone have an answer to that?
That's a really good question, Marie.
I see, well, let's see. Let me call on somebody who hasn't spoken first, and then we'll move back here. Microphone 3.
Mary Hike, Extension Ministry, the delegate from Pacific Northwest to the General Conference, first elected. I speak in favor of this as the delegation has been preparing for 2019 and 2020. We're starting to try to think very strategically, how do we prepare ourselves and prepare the West? We've been in conversation with the delegations from the rest of the West on how do we equip ourselves to have conversations, first in the local churches, the districts, the conferences, and across the West. What I really like about referring this to CFNA is to be able to look strategically financially, to be able to start to align not only human resources, but the financial resources we have available to us to do this work. So we can be as prepared as we can be. So I encourage referral to CFNA.
Thank you. Microphone 4.
Sharon Moe, First Church Seattle, clergy. In that case, I want to respond to your comment, Mary, hopefully helpfully. If that is the strategic plan, then I would make an amendment to this report and amend it by requiring a report back to the 2018 annual conference of the findings of CFNA and having the ability to have an extensive conversation as needed about a 2019 Western Jurisdiction Conference.
So you're asking to amend the motion to refer by adding a request for a report back?
At the next annual conference.
Right. You understand this? This is a motion to amend referral, and I just got to figure out if we can do that. Yes, we can. You've heard the motion. Is there a second? All right, it's second. So this motion to amend the motion to refer is before you. Is there discussion? If you would adopt the amendment, please say yes. Yes. All opposed say no. Any abstentions? All right, so we have added the report back in 2018 to the referral motion. The referral motion now is before you as amended. Is there discussion? I see a white card here. Microphone 2.
Jody Noreen Stout, clergy at Sunrise and Federal Way. I actually have a question. I think it's wise to have financial backing for this and to get a report back, but if part of the intention of this is that we send a request to the Council of Bishops that they actually call a special session, does that need to happen earlier rather than later? And I don't know how that process works, so I don't want to forget asking the Council of Bishops, but how do we do that and also get the finances done?
Well, I feel pretty confident that this petition has been submitted at every conference in the Western jurisdiction and that every bishop has presided over a session that considered it. So my hunch is it'll be on the agenda in July when we meet. Whether you ask us or not. But truly, if the body wanted to weigh in on the question, this would be a strategic time to do it. It takes time to plan a conference. I think you're working on the amendment. Are you, Sharon? Yeah, there's a page over there. Yes, please. Microphone 2.
Good afternoon. I'm Darren Smith with Tumwater United Methodist. Do you think that it's reasonable to ask for a vote from this body about having this conference when you cannot provide a cost for that?
That sounds like a speech against referral.
Legitimate
or for referral.
It's a
For
legitimate
referral.
question. We don't have the information. I'm asking you to provide it.
I don't think we have. I think you're making a judgment when you vote about whether it's reasonable to do this without that information or not.
Could you provide us with that information before we vote?
You'd have to be much more specific what information you're asking.
The
cost of a jurisdictional conference? Boy, Brant, do you have that? I don't know. To the conference, can we give you the cost to the conference roughly? Not of the whole cost of a jurisdictional conference, but the cost to the Pacific Northwest?
I'm sure that both of them would ask for that.
Right, I just don't think we have the jurisdiction, the whole cost number, but maybe we do.
I want to make sure I understand the question. Before we endorse asking for that conference, you'd like to know the cost, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's why we're recommending referral so that information can be created and we wouldn't be asking for the conference with this vote. This vote would be clearly sending it to refer it to CFNA so that research could be done. We're not.
So can I just interpret? At first, I interpreted you literally to say, do you think it's reasonable? But really what you were asking is, can you tell us the number?
Right.
Is that correct?
Well, I think both apply.
Is it reasonable is an argumentative question. It's not a factual question. So the factual question is, do we know how much it would cost if we had a jurisdictional conference? Is that correct?
Well, that's one part of it since you bring it up, but I think it's kind of irresponsible to ask us to do this if you yourself don't even know what that is. And I just wonder if you feel that that's reasonable to ask that of us.
That's not my role to express my opinion about what is reasonable and what is not reasonable in the church. I think I'm going to interpret that you feel it would be helpful as a speech for referral, you feel it would be helpful if we were informed by some research about the cost of calling a jurisdictional conference. Thank you. Is there other discussion? I see a white card back here. Microphone 6.
Wes Stanton, no responsibilities at all at the annual conference, and I can't stay away from the mic. If we vote for referral, then no more action happens. If we vote against referral, what happens? Does that mean we are back to the original petition, or does that mean it is gone?
It is my understanding that a vote to refer is a procedural way of handling the petition, and that if we defeated referral, the petition would still be before us.
With that understanding, okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes? Microphone 2? You're camouflaged.
And Bernie, Wallingford, Seattle. Just a question, would it be helpful to is it possible to make an amendment to then refer the thing to the CFNA, but also send a formal request to the Council of Bishops?
I think the way I'm trying to think on my feet here. I'm not sure. Excuse me? Well, I mean, I think what you would want to do in that case, Anne, is defeat referral, adopt the petition, and then move to refer it, to send it. I'm not sure. Lonnie, you got advice for us? Lonnie's my Alaska parliamentarian as of a week ago.
Bishop, your formula sounds really good. Defeat this referral and refer it to the College of Bishops would be a way to handle the issue that she's raising, I think. That's not a recommendation from me, by the way.
Okay. But Lonnie, they could also then just make a motion to ask the Council on Finance and Administration to research the costs.
Yes, ma'am.
And report back in a year.
That's what I understand the motion currently on the floor to be.
Okay, thank you. Over here, microphone 1.
George Abrams, clergy, retired. I move the previous question.
On all?
On all.
On all that's before us. The previous question is moved on all that's before us, which means there would be no more debate until we have completed our work on this petition. There would be no more amendments, no more referrals. I just want you to be clear. So if you would adopt the previous question, please say yes. Yes. Those opposed say no. Any abstentions? Previous question has been adopted, so we will move through our actions. The motion before us is a referral motion on petition L2 to refer to Council on Finance and Administration. If you would refer, please lift your hand. We're voting.
That was approved.
The amendment, okay. Stop. Once we begin voting, I don't acknowledge points of order or anything else. We go on with the vote. So make sure and get those in before we vote. We have adopted the amendment. So the motion before us is referral with the amendment to report back in 2018. Right? Is that clear? It wasn't an inappropriate question or point. It just wasn't at the right time. So if you would approve referral as amended, please lift your hand. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, this is referred. Thank you. That completes the legislation we can do today because we have a couple of other things to do and we're going to try and be finished by 12:30. Thank you very much.
We're done?
We're done.
So, Barbara Dad Schaefer? No? I'm sorry, Rachel Neer. I skipped over one. My apologies. Rachel Neer with transformation, Project Transformation. Rachel, who has been my very helpful guide, shepherd.
Thank you, Bishop.
My name is Rachel Neer. I am the Executive Director of Project Transformation Pacific Northwest and a proud provisional deacon of the annual conference.
And my name is Sean Cruz, and I am seeking ordination as a deacon. I have to get certified first, but I'm here to represent Project Transformation as the program coordinator.
Many of you hopefully have heard about Project Transformation Pacific Northwest through word or mouth, or in your inbox, or in some other way. We're a new branch of a national program beginning right here across the river, in the Vancouver district this summer. Project Transformation is a program whose mission is to engage young adults in purposeful leadership and ministry, support children in holistic development, and connect churches with communities.
Nationally, we know that 1 in 5 children live in poverty. These children have heard 30 million fewer words than their middle and upper class classmates by the time they enter preschool. Children who are born into poverty start behind and remain behind.
But Project Transformation is working to change that narrative. Of the nearly 2,000 children enrolled in Project Transformation across the connection each year, 98% of them return to school with a maintained or increased reading level. This gives them about a 95% higher chance of graduating high school.
Here in the Pacific Northwest, we are working to do a new thing. Raising up leaders in the church is one of those things that the Pacific Northwest has boldly taken on.
Young adults who participate in Project Transformation as interns have left the program with a new way to talk about ministry, to talk about mission, and to talk about their own personal call that God has placed on their lives. Nationally, 92% of these individuals tell us that they are currently serving in some form of lay or ordained ministry. Sean and I stand before you today as two direct products of Project Transformation.
Children are taught daily by skilled interns who have given their summer for a season of service to the community. Many of these interns come from near and far to help guide children in literacy development, social and emotional learning, and intentional relationship building. Interns are led in conversations about vocational discernment, God's guidance in their lives, and me and Rachel, the two clergy on staff, and our house pastor Taylor will lead those conversations.
The expansion of Project Transformation to the Pacific Northwest affirms the value that this conference and the greater Northwest Episcopal area places on the lives of children, the vocational discernment of young adults, and the expansion of creative ministry and deacon leadership in the United Methodist Church.
Please join us along with the liturgy on the screen and help us to bless our interns and this ministry. We're going to sing Yesu, Yesu one time through, and then we'll go into the liturgy. Yesu, Yesu, fill us with your love, show us how to serve the neighbors we have from you. O God, just as the disciples heard Christ's words of promise and began to eat the bread and drink the wine in the suffering of long remembrance and in the joy of hope,
grant that we may hear your words spoken in each thing of everyday affairs.
Coffee on our table in the morning, the simple gesture of opening a door to go out free.
The shouts of children in the parks, a familiar song sung by an unfamiliar face, a friendly tree that has not yet been cut down.
May simple things speak to us of your mercy and tell us that life can be good.
And may these sacramental gifts make us remember those who do not receive them.
Those who have their lives cut every day and the bread absent from the table.
In the door of a hospital, the prison, the welfare home that does not open.
In sad children, feet without shoes, eyes without hope.
In war hymns that glorify death, in deserts where once there was life.
Christ was also sacrificed.
May we learn that we participate in the saving sacrifice of Christ when we participate in the suffering of his little ones.
Amen.
Amen. We come today to thank the many people in the Pacific Northwest Conference that have gotten us this far, to thank our partner churches and site churches for believing in us, to thank the annual conference for supporting us, and to ask you all to help us continue on our journey by helping to commission the interns and summer staff who are with us today for the ministry ahead of them. Bishop, we would ask you to commission them if you would. Please join us. We are going to commission the ones who are a bit jet lagged. They've changed time zones a couple of times the past day. So please forgive our exhaustion for each of us. And we're going to commission the ones that are here, Bishop, but also the ones who are not yet with us, who we have hired, and the ones who are going to be here whose name we do not yet know. And to the body, I would ask if you are an active participant or if you would want to be an active participant with Project Transformation, please rise where you are and offer whatever gesture is comfortable to help us bless our summer staff.
You guys are not doing this?
No, in the interest of time.
Okay. To the staff and the interns of Project Transformation, I commission you in the name of the Holy Trinity, who has called you by name, to do this important work ahead of you, to transform the lives of children, families, volunteers, congregations, and even yourselves as you ask the deep questions and look for the deep answers in this great community of faith. And to all of us, may God bless us with discomfort at easy answers, half-truths, superficial relationships, so that we may live deep within our hearts. May God bless us with anger at unjust oppression and exploitation of people, so that we work for justice, freedom, and peace. May God bless us with tears to shed for those who suffer from pain, rejection, hunger, war, so that we may reach our hands out to comfort them and turn their pain into joy. And may God bless us with enough foolishness to believe that we can make a difference in the world, so that we can do what others claim cannot be done, to bring justice and kindness to all our children and the poor. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you once again, Bishop, and thank you to the body. If you want to be a part of this, there is still time, and I'm here all week.
And oh, when I go to the Council of Bishops and they report on this project and they have the map with all the little dots, there's one way over there. Now, Barbara Dan Schaefer, lead us.
So, I am Barbara Dad Schaefer, a lay member of this gathering. In a few minutes, we'll receive the offering for the annual Jars for Jamala II, which supports the orphanages in the Congo and Africa, and a part of our partnership with the South Congo Episcopal area. And in a minute, I'm going to give you the directions, although many of you know. But first, I'd like you to consider 3 people who are impacted by our work. Last summer, about a month from now, the authorities brought to one of the orphanages a child, probably 4 weeks old, had been found in a garbage sack in the market, weighed less than 4 pounds. In many ways, the government brought to the church a little boy to be raised. The staff named him Acer Doxa, and the photos just a few weeks later showed him healthy weight and happy. And now, a year later, he's a 12-month-old being raised. Another young one. The authorities brought to the girls' orphanage a baby of 4 months old, a healthy baby, and her mother, Shukrani, usually called Shuki. And after the required 4 days that was agreed to, the mother took off. The mother is 14 years old, no biological father. And this little girl, she's a year old now too, and is cared for by the church and will be raised in a healthy and wholesome environment. But another girl also, we have one boy now and 2 girls in our illustrations, is at the other age of that, a girl named Hortica Patricia Akendo Ikanga is age 22. After 16 years at living at the center, she is now a university student about to complete her first year, financially supported by this conference. So there's 63 living at the orphanages and 18 college kids and 3 graduates. We're pretty proud of them. I mean, in fact, we're really proud of them. So now the instructions. If an offering is taken in many, if not most, of the Congolese churches, it will be taken in something similar to this. It would be a wastebasket or a laundry basket or anything like that. And so we have a collection of these that we use every year. And when you exit in a few minutes, you will find people standing at the 4 exit doors with buckets like this, some green, some yellow, all with the logo, and some of the people will have colorful shirts like I and John have on this morning. If you have your check with you, put it in the bucket. That was easy. If you'd like to make a personal donation, either check or cash, put it in the bucket. If your check from your church is here or your personal donation is in the building but not in the room, you have 2 or 3 choices. One is you can rush to your room to pick it up and get back before the buckets start disappearing. That would maybe not be very graceful. Another is there are other offerings being taken before we adjourn tomorrow, and you can put it in that offering. Be sure it's really well labeled, and it'll all get to the right place. And the third option for both your personal and your whole church ones is to make sure it goes through your local church treasury, and your treasurer will remit it with his or her regular remittances to the conference, and it too will get to the right place. On behalf of the children and youth and young adults, I thank you, we thank you, and on behalf of we who live here, who have an opportunity for generosity and support, blessings on all of us. Thank you.
So with that, we're going to have a prayer and be dismissed to lunch. I should know for sure what comes after lunch, and I should have had this queued up to tell you.
Well, we get a little bit of a break.
You get a little bit of a break, but I don't.
That's right.
So, let's just pause for a moment. God, once again, you have fed us with your word, with the fellowship of the community, and now we go to receive abundant food. Help us receive one another with the generosity that you receive each of us day by day, breath by breath. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Hope you don't have any As you're walking out the room, can I just alert you that when we read appointments this afternoon, The decision was made by the planning committee that only changes of appointments will be read. Everyone who's under appointment will have a chance to stand and be blessed in your appointment. We will only read those that are changes. I just didn't want you to be surprised.